As one of the regulars on the show often talks about, when you build stablecoins like USDC on Hedera, it inherits all the attributes of the underlying network. That means micropayments out of the box, near instant settlement, and ultra low fees. And we just got the last few pieces of the puzzle to allow USDC adoption on Hedera to absolutely skyrocket. We also have some really good news for Karate and Sauce token holders and much more. Welcome back. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull, here once again to bring you the latest in the Hedera ecosystem. But as always, none of this is financial advice. Use it for entertainment or educational purposes only. So as we covered last week, we had the integration of USDC and support of USDC on Crypto.com. And as if that weren't enough, this week we got another even bigger integration. Binance is supporting hUSDC. Deposits and withdrawals are already open. As we discussed in the last episode, these on and off ramps are huge for both HBARbarians that are active in the Hedera DeFi ecosystem and businesses leveraging USDC on Hedera. But what's just as impactful is now these platforms have integrated a Hedera token service token, so other HTS tokens will be easier to list as well. Now I need to try this out, but I also saw the cost to deposit and withdraw hUSDC on Crypto.com. It's free to mint hUSDC and less than a penny to make withdrawals back to the US dollar. And I'm sure the fees on Binance are going to be similar. Hedera's version of USDC really does open up a Pandora's box of amazing opportunities for all kinds of businesses out there. And this really was the last piece of the puzzle to allow easy adoption. I also just learned about a Crypto.com campaign where if you deposit as little as $50 in Hedera's version of USDC, you can win a $10 USDC bonus. Next, I have a little update on the ETF front. I put out a video on Monday highlighting that the Canary and VanEck Solana ETFs, Canary and Grayscale XRP ETFs, as well as the Canary Litecoin and Grayscale Doge ETFs had been postponed. Now, I got all excited that HBAR wasn't mentioned, and while the S1 filing for HBAR was first, the 19B4 filing for HBAR was after, and HBARbarian Kimchi HBAR pointed out that Monday was the deadline for the SEC to postpone or approve those other ETFs. So my hope that the HBAR ETF might lead to these others was a bit premature. Still, things are moving along. Cointelegraph posted that the SEC acknowledged the HBAR 19B4 ETF filing, and also of note, it looks like Kraken liked that news, so we're looking forward to that listing of HBAR as well. Not to be left out, Coinbase announced an integration of a Saucerswap on-ramp, saying users can now seamlessly swap fiat to HBAR, making it easier to onboard into the Hedera DeFi ecosystem. With this and what appears to be DEX tokens being in the clear from a regulatory standpoint, I think there's a good chance that Sauce could be one of the first HTS tokens to be listed on some of these Tier 1 exchanges. I think in recent years there has been a reluctance by a lot of these big players to support Hedera, and that's been for a variety of reasons, but I think now they're starting to realize that Hedera is not going anywhere, and if you can't beat them, join them. So that's why I think we're seeing a lot more support for these things, and because of the great work that we're seeing by entities like the HBAR Foundation. So the next thing we're going to get into, we're going to shift gears here a little bit into Karate Combat. You guys know how much of a fan of Karate Combat I am, and Karate token holders are going to like what they hear in this next interview. So today we're going to welcome back Only LARPing from Karate Combat. Welcome back.
What's up? What's up? Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. We have a lot to dig into on Karate Combat. There has been a lot of different announcements over the past couple weeks. But first, can you talk to us a little about the new Karate Tokenomics 2.0? We heard about it just a few days ago.
Sure. I mean, to be honest, a lot of the thanks, I don't know if thanks is the right word, but a lot of the kind of brainstorming here is you're doing, man. You know, you've been talking about this to me for a long time. So to back up for a second, we announced a licensing deal with CJI. For those who are not familiar, Craig Jones, he has competed in the pit a couple times back in Mexico City a year ago, and then in Dubai also about a year ago. He is the most viral jiu-jitsu artist on the planet, bar none. And last summer, he held an event called the Craig Jones Invitational. He lined it up to be directly competing in the same town on the same day as the biggest event in grappling called ADCC. I think they have it every 3 years. And he competed head on with a massive, I believe, $1 million prize for the winners. And he did extraordinarily well. And after competing in the pit in February and April, he designed CJI around something that looked like a pit. We didn't have time to kind of complete a licensing agreement with him in advance. Some politics involved there. He ended up calling it the Alley. For those who aren't familiar, Karate Combat does have a patent on the pit. And so it's just a matter of time before we worked out a deal together, which we've been talking about with him for a long time. We have a very good relationship. And so he just announced a deal to license the pit, not just for CJI 2, but for all of grappling. So a co-license with Karate Combat. And we've announced that the license agreement or sponsorship or whatever you want to call it will actually be used to fund Karate Combat up-only gaming pools in the future. As a reminder, today the up-only gaming pools are funded by the foundation. There was an allocation in the foundation's treasury when the token launched almost 2 years ago. And the dream is that in the future, and this is a medium-term plan, this isn't an overnight thing, but the dream is that eventually these pools are largely funded by sponsorships, which from a crypto tokenomics standpoint, especially in down markets, people really want to understand value accrual and where these prize pools are coming from. And so I think it's a great idea. It's a great narrative. It's an incredibly cool kind of tokenomics, like novel tokenomics idea that's really native to up-only gaming. I don't think we've ever seen anything like it. I mean, up-only gaming is a new idea to begin with, so why not a new tokenomic model on top of it?
I think it makes perfect sense. Now, I was just speculating last week on my show around exactly what the sponsorship from the Craig Jones Invitational was going to be. If their sponsorship was going to be for up-only gaming events for just their events, or if it was going to be for actual Karate Combat events. So they're going to help supplement right now. So is there still some allocation from the foundation? And when we're talking about the foundation, I believe you mean the Karate Combat Foundation. So is this sponsorship going to supplement that, or is it going to replace that?
Supplement for sure. This is
Okay.
like a medium to long-term plan. Again, Karate
Yeah.
Combat is a young sports league. So sports properties in general are not massive cash cows, and really, most of the revenue that the league produces should be put back into growth, right? Like we got like 11 events a year right now. We want to double that. We want to continue to level up the quality of the fights, etc. We've got 2 growth properties in Pit Submission and IFC. This is a set of properties that is growing rapidly and should continue to grow rapidly if all goes well. So I don't think this is the type of thing where near term up only gaming prize pools are even funded in majority by like sponsors or licensees, with one big exception, which we can talk about if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. What's the exception?
Sure. So as we've announced, we've got the first L2 on Hedera up, launching in Q2. And we've also announced that 30% of the up tokens when they launch are going to go back to Karate token holders. This will have to be put to a Karate token holder vote. How those tokens are distributed over time, it's not going to be like some big upfront airdrop, I don't think. It wouldn't be my preference. My preference is that at least some portion of those up tokens are actually distributed through up only gaming. Why give them all out in some boring staking plan? We've already got this incredibly cool way to distribute tokens to people who are actually participating, not just passive holders. As a reminder, when Up goes live, the tokenomics are also getting readjusted. So you'll no longer be able to just like sell and rebuy between events if you want to maximize your winnings, because those who have staked longest into Up Only Gaming with some sort of cap, maybe 12 months or something, are going to get much higher rewards than people who haven't been staked for more than a week. So you can incentivize people to stake their karate tokens, leave them there permanently. And in my mind, the people who have been staked longest, who are actively playing every month, they're the ones who should participate in the up token as well. So I think, that's a big exception to what I just said about, the future of the karate token prize pools.
So essentially, you're going to be shifting from a snapshot model where we just take the snapshot, a couple days before the event to looking at the past. Now, is that going to start off with like just a 30-day window, 1 month, and then start to add over time? Or do you think you're going to start from the very beginning, looking 12 months back at those accounts to kind of figure out how they should be
No, I think we
compensated
start
during?
fresh. I think we start
Okay,
fresh because, we want to encourage people to kind of, buy in and stake. And it shouldn't just be kind of rewarding. I think what we want to do is use this as a big catalyst, and we want to get people kind of on even footing. That even footing doesn't last long though, right? Because the most loyal holders are going to be outpacing people who are new, and then outpacing people who are kind of like flipping in and out. I don't think, however, that the time period, should kind of go forever, because you don't want a situation where somebody who's been staked, you can never catch up to someone, right? Like
exactly.
maybe the multiplier caps out at like 3 to 5 times at 12 months, right? And so someone who's been there for 12 months or 24 months or 36 months is getting 3 to 5 times the rewards as somebody who's been there for a day. But over the course of the year, those new holders can catch up, and they can see their multiplier clicking up every day in the app.
I love it. I think that's exactly what I wanted to hear. So one of the
That's
things
good.
you mentioned, you mentioned revenue, and that you are a new league, but you're growing very fast, and you do have revenue. I think it's important to highlight that most things in crypto do not have significant revenue, and I think that's a differentiator for
It
Karate Combat.
is. It is. It's the whole kind of regulatory landscape is changing very quickly. And so frankly, it's stuff we were extraordinarily hesitant to talk about out of the gates. And I think you're going to see more transparency from us over time on all that. But yeah, the league has very significant revenue, considerably more revenue than many projects in the top 50 or whatever. But I think
Yeah.
we have to figure out, it's a very complicated structure. We have to figure out, over time how to provide transparency there in ways that none of us really know what the kind of new guidance is going to look like yet, that comes out of the SEC. And we've been very careful to date about how we market the karate token, not as an investment. And we want to make sure that we don't kind of screw that up on the 5 yard line here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's so close to like an airline mile, in my
Yeah,
opinion. It has real value. They actually sell the miles.
agreed.
It's dependent, on the airline and all that kind of stuff. But they trade back and forth. I think that's a perfect analogy between the two. Last week we had a great conversation with Ethan. He's your lead developer. He is your CTO. He talked about your interoperability strategy. Again, he did a great job explaining all of that, but I wanted to see if you wanted to add anything.
For sure. So, Karate Combat's Up Only Gaming was developed to solve a core pain point or need for Karate Combat, and that's how you turn awareness into super fandom and how you build up new stars. Every sport faces this. There's 10,000 sports leagues out there, right? I don't know, 100,000, a million pro teams or whatever, right? And so we started getting inquiry not just from sports, but also esports and fantasy sports startups and gambling products and other competitive activities about licensing the up only gaming tech stack. And that's how we went down that's how we started down the path of trying to figure out how we can spread up only gaming around the world as fast as possible to reduce education barriers around up only gaming and share users and 10x user growth. When we thought about it, like the easiest way, the fastest way to grow this is probably to give it away for free, to share our users, ideally even to give grants and some new native token to accelerate growth. But we knew, given how competitive like the L1, L2 landscape is, especially in sports, because you've got a lot of L1s and L2s out there with dedicated BD teams giving sponsorships to sports projects, esports projects to launch a token on their chain, that if we wanted to grow up on the gaming as fast as possible, we were never going to be able to require projects to, force launch their token on up. just not realistic for a new chain whatsoever, right? We want to be able to spread up only gaming to every sports token in the world. And so we needed to kind of build interoperability in from like day zero as really a core function of the product, so that if there's a token on another chain that got a big sponsorship to launch a token there, but they want to add utility, they want to launch their own apps, they want to do it in 30 days with almost no cost, we can facilitate that. So the way to work is the app and the white label app, they're going multi-chain. And so when that sports up-only gaming players play, very simply, all in the background, preserving like the amazing Karate Combat UX, when they press the button to play, in the background, they're wrapping and staking their tokens to Up on Hedera. And when those users play, Up on Hedera is earning small transaction fees from every player. And so, we're trying to like broaden the funnel out as much as humanly possible. And that means working with projects on ideally every chain.
Music to our ears. So the last thing I want to get into is away from some of the tokenomics, but I still think it's important for those that are participating in up-only gaming. It's this new stadium. And I just wanted to see what, particularly for the up-only gamers, why should they be excited about this new location?
Well, first of all, because it's going to be cool as hell. I mean, we're so excited. We've got like the coolest ideas. We've wanted to do this forever. We just can't wait to do it, to be honest. I do think building a dedicated stadium is going to dramatically reduce costs for us. It's going to even more so reduce operational complexity. Hopefully, it will allow us over time to expand our schedule beyond about once a month. If you look at the strategy behind it, the UFC has 2 buildings in Vegas. One is called the UFC Performance Institute. Another is called the UFC Apex. And UFC over the last few years has had upwards of half of their events in the UFC Apex. It's like a 300 to 400 seat facility. They're expanding it right now to like 700 to 800 seats. And next to it, or near it, is the UFC Performance Institute. It's this gym where they produce amazing content. And so this is sort of like a combined Performance Institute, Apex, and then also a Goat gym where you'll have many of the best like martial artists in the world coming to train. And so I think the most exciting thing about it is that it should allow us over time to increase the pace of our events, so that hopefully you'll be able to play up on the gaming more than once a month. Also, the renewed kind of Karate de Mayo rewards will be coming out for a vote pretty soon. It wouldn't be shocking if there's some rewards there that involve the new facility. And I think it'll be easy for us to kind of build in a dedicated section for our best up-only gaming players.
Again, that's exactly what I want to hear as a super fan and an up-only gamer. Only LARPing, thank you so much for coming on today and explaining everything around the new tokenomics, around what you're doing with the Craig Jones Invitational and this new stadium. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So as Only LARPing was talking about there's teams that are jumping on by the day that want to use Up Layer 2 to allow up-only gaming to supercharge their sports as well. And we have one that's going to be highlighted in the Karate Combat app. Top Flight Football has an event this weekend with the Premier League. Yes, that's the UK Premier League with teams like Arsenal, Chelsea, and Manchester United. So for all of you karate token holders, don't miss out on gaining some additional tokens. The voting is open right now. I also had a bit of an idea when it comes to Karate Combat events being sponsored. It takes about 150 million karate to fund a prize pool for a Karate Combat full event fight card. And I thought it would be cool to have Hedera builders sponsor a full event, and Only LARPing loved the idea. With over 1 million people watching live and millions more afterwards, it's great exposure for all of our teams. The loose framework is we're going to have 3 tiers of sponsors: a silver tier that would require 5 million karate, worth about $1,000 at today's prices, a gold tier of 12.5 million karate, and a platinum tier of 25 million karate. A mix of 2 platinum, 4 gold, and 10 silver would be enough to fund an entire event prize pool. We haven't nailed down all the specifics, but a graphic with all the sponsors could be shown during the live stream. The platinum sponsors mentioned a couple times, gold once, and the silver would get a place on that graphic. And of course, we could also get an awful lot of promotion leading up to the event. If there's any teams out there that might be interested in doing something like this, go ahead and contact me on Telegram, X, or just drop a comment down below. Now, this flips the script on the Karate token from events being a potentially inflationary event to being a catalyst that drives Karate token demand. And what's more is this could be done in a completely decentralized way. So Karate Combat could set up an account, and teams that are interested in sponsoring could just send the Karate to that account. In the memo, they could have their URL, they could have other information about their applications or what they're building, and then if it meets whatever criteria it might be for Karate Combat, it gets accepted. If it doesn't meet that criteria, the Karate gets sent back. Easy, easy. So I think this is a really cool way to do sponsorships with Karate Combat or any of these other teams that are doing this up-only gaming. It could be really exciting to see how all this develops. All right, so now we're going to jump over to Shark Bites. This is a short one. We had about a 20-minute episode, and I cut that down a fair amount because we do have a lot of other content for this show, but you're going to be able to catch the entire Shark Bites next Monday. So let's take a look. Rob, you've been a busy man the past few weeks. You having fun with it?
Hey, Brandon. Yeah, Denver was just amazing. And then I came back via Zurich. There was a Hedera board meeting, and then spent some time with the guys at the Hashgraph Association. So, yeah, I've been traveling the world, but happy to be home again now.
Not 100% positive, but I might be going to Zurich as well. I had a blast at HederaCon. We had fun there doing the live Shark Bites, but we have a bunch of questions here today, and you have a hard stop here in about 25 minutes. So we're going to try to get through as many as we can. All right, so NASA actually has 3. The first one is, I watched your panel in HederaCon. We're getting this question a lot. Are we working with Swift?
We working with Swift. There's a lot of interest in this, and the panel was awesome, wasn't it? I mean, the contributions in the panel, in particular, Elisa DiCaprio, who's from Swift, on my panel at Denver. She was formerly of R3. We've got quite a few R3 alumni in the marketing team and across the various ecosystem partners. So it's not a surprise that former colleagues were invited to join the panel, or the various panels. Elisa was talking a lot about what Swift were doing. I was talking about what AP Plus and Hedera were doing. We didn't cross the streams at any time. So anyone who is drawing conclusions between what we were saying is just speculating. I mean, it is true to say that Australian Payments Plus runs on Swift technology. Our new payments platform, our faster payments platform, is built and operated by Swift. So we talk to Swift all the time. We are owned by the Australian banks, all of whom have Swift relationships. So there is an ongoing conversation with Swift from my perspective. I can't talk to the rest of the ecosystem partners or anything that might or might not be happening there. And to be fair, an organization like Swift wouldn't announce anything until it was a done deal and it was built anyway. But it's great, isn't it, that these conversations are being had? We're openly debating how the Web3 space is maturing, how the enterprise utility and usage of Hedera and Web3 is maturing too. So I'm pretty positive that these things will weave together over time, maybe sooner rather than later. Who knows?
All right, fingers crossed. So the next one, I haven't been following very much, but I'm hoping you have. What's your opinion on the digital euro, and is Hedera a key player?
So Christine Lagarde made an announcement last week, I believe, about the digital euro. I think this is in the context of the new U.S. administration and Donald Trump saying that there will be no CBDC, so no central bank digital currency in the U.S. And it appears that the Europeans have accelerated their own CBDC efforts, maybe in that context, maybe as a competitive edge. It is true to say they've been working on this for 5 years. There's no actual evidence that it's even going to be on a blockchain. So, the European CBDC projects have investigated all sorts of different technologies. I'm not aware of Hedera being involved in that, but like I said, there is there's a push towards a central bank digital currency in Europe, and Christine Lagarde said it will be by the end of this year, which is would be pretty momentous, I think, if it moved forward quickly. As we've often seen in the past, CBDCs are characterized either wholesale or retail. They've said that it's not going to replace cash, so I assume that it'll be the wholesale end of the spectrum. Although I have read some reports that suggest that they'll be looking at a kind of a retail solution for CBDC as well, maybe operating in parallel with cash. Retail CBDCs are highly disruptive to financial ecosystems and financial stability, because it kind of replaces commercial banking relationships with central banks. But the Europeans have been working on this for quite some time, so very interested to see how that will pan out.
I'll be honest, I don't see any reason for most CBDC applications. Most of the money that's created is created through the banking system, and we already have stable coins. We're seeing banks start to participate in that. So I think most of it could be handled on that front, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's the view in Australia as well. But wholesale CBDCs are, there is there's a very strong case for optimizing in efficiency and speed. But it doesn't impact the the citizen, the retail users of these new forms of digital money, and that's where stablecoins and tokenized money market funds and deposit tokens and all of this kind of rich tokenized money comes in. So, but we'll see. I think the key takeaway for this is that Europe, one of the massive economic blocks on the planet, are moving forward with a central bank digital currency. So, things are moving quickly.
All right, Rob, you only have 4 minutes left, so I'm going to hit you with two more coming from one person. Arcade Galaxy has two. The first one is, are we still working closely with NVIDIA on chips? And second, when can we expect to see a new governing council member announced? Will it be a company that will shock the world? Give us a hint. We need some hope.
We need some hope.
Yeah.
NVIDIA, so that's Equity Labs.
Equity Lab, yep.
Jonathan Dutton was in Denver. I had a chance to talk to him briefly. No new news on that. Again, it's not Hedera working with NVIDIA. It's Equity Labs building the firmware to go in the NVIDIA and Intel chips for verifiable compute. As far as I know, that's progressing nicely and will come to market when it comes to market. And governing council members, well, there's a governing council meeting tomorrow, and there's a particular agenda item which has some interesting decisions to be made. So I'm going to leave it there.
All right, that works. Rob, I know you have a hard stop here. We appreciate you coming on here and answering these questions week in and week out. We'll see you next week.
My absolute pleasure. Great to be back, Brandon. Cheers.
So I know I've talked about Earthling Steamrunner here several times in the past, but they have another game that's already out. It's not directly tied to Earthlings, but it was built by that team, and that's SmackUm. So Smack Mosquito was created as part of Earthling's commitment to launch 3 mini-games before the launch of their main game, which should be towards the end of this year or early next year. In September of last year, the team decided to build a Telegram-based game. It's centered around preventing a mother from waking up at night by smacking mosquitoes. As levels progress, new challenges emerge, like stopping alarm clocks or giving the dog a bone, all while continuing to smack mosquitoes. The project aims to attract new users to Hedera while also engaging those who only held HBAR with other Hedera tokens. Hashpack and Centex joined as collaborators to turn the game into a true community-driven experience, integrating multiple HTS tokens. In November of last year, the team decided to launch a meme coin, SmackUm, around that brand. Around that same time, MemeJob was announced, which became the platform for SmackUm to launch on. You can find the game in the SmackUm Telegram group. It's easy to start and play. Currently, Smack Mosquito has partnered with 18 Hedera projects that reward players with small amounts of their tokens when they play using a registered Hedera wallet. The login is the same login you use for Earthlings and Steamrunner, and there's no connection through Telegram to the account that you're using. The team plans to expand partnerships to include more Hedera and cross-chain projects. Like with a lot of other DeFi applications, there are seasons where you can collect these tokens, as well as a staking model for the SmackUm token that you can use without even playing the game. There are also NFTs out there that are associated with all this stuff that can increase the player or staker's points at the end of each one of these seasons. And finally, there's also a referral program. So there's a lot going on with SmackUm. Like with all the applications that I talk about here on a regular basis, get out there and try it. See what you like. I've become a huge fan of SteamRunner, but SmackUm might be for you. I'm going to try it out some more this weekend and see if I can get addicted. All right, so the next thing we're going to jump into is a builder in a completely different space, and that's Scintilla. Scintilla focuses on tokenizing real-world assets on the Hedera platform in a regulatory-compliant way, and they were singing some of Hedera's praises. In a post, they said why they chose Hedera. Number one, ultra-efficient, finalizing 10,000 transactions a second with low energy consumption. And of course, we can handle more than 10,000 transactions per second, and that's per shard. Once we shard, we're going to be able to handle pretty much unlimited scaling. It's also carbon negative, contributing to offsetting projects such as Dovu, and it's built for real-world applications, enabling scalable, institutional-grade tokenization. I love to see teams getting out there and explaining why they chose Hedera. And we've had Tim Popwell, he is the CEO over there at Scintilla, on here before to tell us about what they're doing. But I think it's probably about time for an update. So now we're going to shift gears here a little bit. We're going to get into something that a lot of teams are focused on in our space, and that's empowering creators. One of the newest arrivals in that space is Impart Global. And Liam had some fantastic thoughts. So let's take a look. Liam, welcome. Last week you were interviewing me, and we're switching it up this week, but we appreciate you coming on.
Thanks so much for having me, Brandon. I'm getting deja vu.
Well, we're going to jump right into the questions here. I am curious sometimes how people got into the space. So what got you involved with Hedera, and why did you choose this ecosystem?
So I've been kind of interested in Web3 and in particularly, I suppose, cryptocurrency at the start of it for about 10 years. And what initially drew me to the Web3 ecosystem was trading cryptocurrency. And of course, as we all do in our early stages, lost a whole bunch of money, but learned a whole lot along the way and really became fascinated in this idea of Bitcoin and what it offered the world, and eventually Ethereum and what it offered the world. And then the 20,000 other ecosystems, and thinking to myself, wow, how many of these are really relevant? And then once upon a dream, I think it was on the Hidden Secrets of Money, Mike Maloney episode 6 that I heard about the hash graph for the first time. It was either that or I'd heard about it somewhere else first. I know that they had kind of like an early sale, but I heard about it either through like the idea or concept of an early sale and Lehman talking about the tech, or on Mike Maloney. I can't quite remember now, as it was many years ago. But I just remember thinking this sounds like something that would genuinely work, unlike all of the other solutions that I've seen. And based on what I'm seeing now, years down the line, about to build on it myself and having had a successful launch and watching others do incredible things, I can see that that's exactly right, that this is an ecosystem where amazing things are happening that actually have application in the real world. And that's ultimately what we've all been waiting for years and years and years. So real pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so it's almost the exact same path and almost this exact same time frame. Back in 2015, I was buying a little bit of Bitcoin, and then 2016, a little bit of Ethereum. Never did it in size until I got to HBAR, but I did have fun with it during those early days. So now I want to get into what you're actually building. What is Impart, and what are your goals with the platform?
Cool. So essentially, there's a problem that, we know that your average person doesn't know about and doesn't think about. But creatives such as myself, who've been in a creative industry, for me, that's music, it's composition, it's piano, it's DJing, electronic music production, etc., for 20 years. And the problem is ultimately that although I have an exceptional education in what I do, and, I even know a thing or two about marketing, and I'm a decently well-seasoned business owner, and yet I cannot freely express myself to like the core of what I am as a creative and earn an income, earn a living doing that. And there are millions of people all around the world who experience the exact same problem. And a lot of us have actually paid a lot of money for university level educations to get to the point that we're at. So we're in a huge deficit, and yet there's no industry for us. And the world is dominated by the generic platforms that we use, Spotify, etc. are generic platforms. They are designed to keep people addicted to them. This is well documented information. And so creativity has kind of fallen by the wayside. So what does one do about that? And it's a problem that is obviously like weighing very heavily on my heart. And I've had to pursue doing other things with my life as a result. Many people have quit. Some people have ended their lives because they can't do what they love, and it's really sad to see. So the problem to me has an easy solution. People do what they're incentivized to do. So our solution to this problem is to incentivize people to care about creativity by creating a decentralized application where people can do all of their favorite things like stream music, listen to audio, watch videos, read books, shop for creative products, view and download digital art like NFT products. So they can do all those wonderful things, but with an investment layer on the hash graph where now your average streamer turns into an investor, that I can invest in creatives for the first time. And when I'm invested in a creative, I'm incentivized to care about that creative. And you see how it solves the problem. Because all of a sudden, if I'm invested in a creative, not only am I incentivized to support them, but I'm also incentivized to kind of think a little deeper about the creative art that I'm consuming, because I'm invested in it, or at least I have an opportunity to maybe invest in it. So it's actually going to shift, we believe, the perception of how people think about creativity and creative art. And I think that's exceptionally important given how, we're moving more and more into an automated AI-driven world. And AI can do things that most humans can do in the creative spaces now already. And I think that having that additional spark of creativity reignited and a platform that can really support that is really important.
One of the other things that I think about with Web3 and what I've witnessed and even experienced myself is once you have skin in the game, once you've invested, you also become evangelical. You become the biggest promoter of whatever that is. What are your thoughts around that? The fans actually becoming the promoters of these creatives?
Well, that's exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. Because currently no platforms, once again, incentivize fans to actually support people who they care about. In fact, on most platforms, you'll hardly see the people that you really care about because of the algorithms, right? So what's beautiful about what Web3 is opening up in terms of this is that creatives can really weaponize their fan base. Because once they're invested, it's like you say, they're going to do all sorts of things for you, really for free. And that's not even a bad thing. Most of the time, they'll even probably want to do those things. And those things that they'll want to do for you are genuinely going to help you. And creatives need help. It was like I was saying to you on our podcast the other day, that there are probably plenty of people in most communities that would be more than happy to create some content for or write something for the owner of that community. And that's something that can really help a creative along. Creatives need to focus on what they came to this earth to do, which is to create things and to kind of push us forward with that and to reflect on the times in their creativity so that we can all feel something, that we can all be moved, that we can all kind of collectively grow, both intellectually and emotionally and hopefully spiritually as well. And so if we can take all of the other kind of, responsibilities off of the creative, such as, well, how do I market myself? How do I grow a fan base, etc. If we can make that as easy as possible for them and really make fans more interested in collaborating with artists, then artists have to be in finding fans. I think that that's going to be cool. And just to answer your question, finally, I think that, the hash graph and the functionality that it allows us to provide in an app like what we're eventually going to be talking about is exactly what is going to provide artists with a fan base that truly are beneficial and aren't just in the background playing their stuff, but there's no direct line of communication. For example, as a musician, I could offer my fan base the ability to come into a private space with me and hear some of my demo records before they're released, like in a private Galaxy world on the hash graph, for example, that I can tokenize and set up, but only the holders of my NFTs or my tokenized product, they can come into that world. They can get those demos behind the scenes. They can get to know me as a person. And maybe those fans will even influence my creative process, and that's a beautiful thing. I don't think we've begun to scratch the surface of what is possible in terms of the artist-fan relationship and how that will shape art in the future.
So we've been talking, like always, to the Hedera community here. We've been talking to potential fans, but what about the artists themselves? How should artists think and other creators think about Web3?
They should think about it as a way to build a community, really. I know that you're very close with Kabila and Manu, and their whole, the coined phrase of Kabila is tokenize your community. And what that really means is sell or give NFTs to your community that incentivize them to support you. And that is something that doesn't exist. We have platforms like Patreon, for example, and you and I have spoken about this, where I pay a monthly subscription fee and I might get like gated access to some private videos and maybe a call with you. But I also don't really have anything tangible that proves I'm a part of that I can show other people. I think that, when you hold a digital product like an NFT or a token, you feel much more a part of that world. And I don't know why that is. There's something about the human nature that it enjoys that kind of possessiveness over something that makes them feel a part of it. So when they hold something in their wallet, their Web3 wallet, that makes them feel like, wow, I'm a part of this, and this thing that I'm a part of can actually benefit me and like holds value for me. I would urge artists, to answer your question, to think about the real value that provides them. Because if you can get people feeling this way, then you're going to get people really excited about supporting you as a creative.
And we're just scratching the surface with this. We have teams like Kabila, like Galaxy. You mentioned both of those, and we're going to have Impart coming. There's going to be these different tools, but we actually have to really start to leverage them and prove out what we know is possible, but really hasn't come to fruition to this point. So I'm excited about what you're doing. So what does your ideal client look like, and how should they get in touch with you and your team?
So anyone who is a creative of any kind, like whether you write music or you're a sculptor or you write poetry or you create digital art or even real physical art, I urge you to come and join our community at first, because this ecosystem is all about community and stimulating community. But like, you're going to want to be around when we launch the early versions of this app so that you can be on the app first and establish your profiles and ultimately then build a fan base once users start to use that app. So on the creative side, anyone who does a creative art form of any kind. Now, something worth noting is, there's no real way to put a dancer on an application, for example. But obviously, you can video record your dancing and then sell those as services. So it doesn't matter what type of creative art we're talking about. There's going to be a place for you of some kind on this application. And in terms of like the user side, anyone who ultimately uses a creative platform, if you can even call them that these days, like Netflix or Spotify, where you consume creative art, there is a whole world that you have not yet been exposed to, unless you've actually taken the time to really delve into that. And that's a real shame. At Impart, we believe that creative art has the ability, and it's free. It literally has the ability that is available for free to reshape your whole being. And so we urge you, if you use any kind of like creative application like Spotify, Netflix, whatever it is, Showmax or YouTube, and you consume what you might call art on a daily basis, this app is going to be a place where you can do all of those wonderful things, but we're really going to create an impeccable user experience. We believe it's so important. And of course, we're talking about the hash graph and Web3, but as Lehman would say, it's so important that these things function in the background, that people almost don't even know that they're using a Web3 technology here. And so we want to make this a seamless, fun, amazing experience that really like transcends the minds of the users who use it. And that sounds like one hell of a feat to achieve, and I think that it is. But I think it's very important that there are creative people at the helm of that, and we are. And so whether you're creative or whether you may even think that you're not even creative, come and join our community, come and join our Discord, come and chat to us, because we have average everyday people who are starting to like post things in the creative writing chat and like draw and paint things and get involved in life more creatively. And it's such a joy and a blessing to see how that improves their well-being and how they're just genuinely happier people when they do that. So it's really for everyone, Brandon.
I'm really getting excited about all of the tools that we have in the space, from Tune FM. I mentioned, of course, Galaxy and Kabila. We have Impart. But now I'm starting to think about, you haven't really mentioned, sculptors and things like that. So if you come across any sculptors, it would be actually perfect for Twigital. We're looking for people like that that work in those 3D mediums to just generally highlight what Twigital can do, while at the same time highlighting some of their art. Now, I also know that you have an NFT floating around out there. I would like to have some more information around that. You had a successful launch, which was really impressive for a new team that's entering the space. What does that NFT do? And just tell us about what that experience was like of launching an NFT on Kabila.
Well, firstly, the experience launching on Kabila, as I've mentioned many a time, and we gave them a wonderful testimonial, was just such a breeze and a pleasure. They've created a suite of tools that makes it really easy to understand how to do these things. Because, like, let's be honest, Web3 it's a complicated matter. And what I say over and over again to people, and like May and I chatted about it in depth on the podcast, is like, why do Web3 developers not try to make these things more easily accessible, but then scratch their heads wondering about why no one's using it and adopting it? And so, it's really important that a user experience is easy and seamless. And Kabila offers that, whether it's by having videos embedded on the actual platform that explain how to use every element of the platform, or just being on call, and being willing and ready to help, which is amazing. So shout out to the team at Kabila. Really, they've created something amazing, and it really allows you to create your own NFT collection and even launch it and even edit it after you've created it. There were some mistakes that I made when minting our collection. We're only human. Imagine it was immutable on the blockchain and I couldn't edit it. So having that functionality is super important. And like when we launch this application and we allow creatives to tokenize themselves and tokenize their artworks and sell those and raise money, for example, we're going to need that suite of tools integrated in. And so Kabila is going to be building that out for us. And like we've seen the product that, like, to us is almost like an early version of our application. And so there's a lot of synergy there. But essentially, we launched 100 NFTs. We sold them for a hefty 1,000 HBAR each. And it was a big ask with the market down. And we got the support of the community. Some people bought multiple. And, they really got behind multiple people bought multiple and are still holding them and are still getting excited. And we were quite taken aback because we come from a place where no one cares about creativity. So to see people put their money where their mouth is and not just say, oh, this is such a great idea, but actually invest in it was an unbelievable experience. And like what we have experienced as a result of what Kabila offers is what every creative is going to experience on our app when we make it as easy as possible for them to do the same thing, right? In terms of the global passes, to touch on those for a bit and what they do. So there are 100 NFTs currently. We're not making any more. We really wanted the early investors to benefit the most. There are some on secondary, but the price is essentially already double what the sale was. So I think they're going for about 2,000 HBAR or so at the time of this video, or just under. But essentially, they're like your private kind of pass into the world of Impart. The most notable benefit, I'd say, is that when we launch our Impact token, which we're hoping to do within the next 6 months to a year, once we've finished app designs, holders of the NFTs will receive their share of 10% of all of the Impact tokens. And this Impact token is going to be the micro facilitator on the hash graph for the application itself that kind of runs in the background. And so the Impact token is going to play a very important role on the eventual DApp. And so a lot of people bought multiple passes because they want a bigger share of that token allocation when it eventually comes out. But it's more than just a token allocation. This is obviously pending regulatory approval, and this is not financial advice of any kind. But what we would like is to offer both holders of our NFTs and holders of our eventual token a revenue share in the application itself. And so, these passes are going to be invaluable in terms of that. If we can build a kind of multi-million plus user database on our application, and they're all streaming and paying monthly subscription fees and investing in NFTs, and our holders are getting a percentage of that, all willing, that is something very valuable, we think. And we know that our close community was aware of that benefit, of course, because we privately consulted them on that, but we weren't able to publicly talk about it because it's pending regulatory approval, as I'll always say. And I think that's what I'm most excited about here, is like the idea that an NFT can actually represent almost a microshare in something, or a token can represent a microshare, because that incentivizes people truly. There's no greater benefit that I can offer holders than you'll have a revenue share in our entire application, right? And apart from that, they'll get airdrops of future NFTs from artists we collaborate with. They'll get, airdrops of future, token allocations, like our trash token, which is our meme coin, which is a whole other revolution that has to do with how artists have been trashed. And we've got a meme coin kind of punting that whole message. And so there are benefits to do with the trash ecosystem. And generally speaking, it's going to be like voting rights on the app. It's going to be early access to test the app. And it's eternal access to our partners, our networks, and really us as founders in our community. And right now, people are pretty excited to be holding them, and we couldn't be happier about that because they're very dear to us.
Well, congratulations on your success so far. You have an awesome vision. I wish you the best of luck with everything, and thanks for coming on today and telling us about it.
Thanks so much, Brandon. Appreciate you so much.
So Liam's really turning into a true HBARbarian, and I can't wait to see what comes out of his platform. So I have a few more pieces of news here that I want to get into before we get into network analysis. First, if you're going to be up in New York this upcoming week, Hedera Governing Council member BitGo put out a post saying, "We're excited to team up with Hedera for an exclusive evening of blocktails and dappetizers at Blockworks DAS." They have a link on here that you can RSVP if you are going to be up there. I'm sure there are limited spots, so if you're going to be up there and you want to participate, make sure to go ahead and RSVP. Polynominal put out a little bit of a teaser. They said the #1 USA coin is coming, H_R. Zep from the HBAR Foundation looked pretty interested, and Polynominal made it pretty clear who they were talking about. Now I'm going to get into my own NFT series, the Bullbarians. These NFTs give you early access to content through my Galaxy-powered HBAR Bull World. I'm also in talks to create a game around these characters, and I'm looking to do a free NFT drop for all the holders that should be pretty unique. There were several purchases on Kabila this week where the floor price is now $625. Over on Centex, the floor is at $600, and as a reminder, the mint price was $400. And for anyone that's curious, I am planning on being a gold sponsor in the Hedera Builders Karate Combat event. And with that, let's take a look at some network analysis. The transaction rate over the past 24 hours has been 10 TPS, and we've seen a slight uptrend over the past few months. The time to consensus finality is an impressive 2.7 seconds. During the past week, we've had 70,000 accounts created, 80,000 fungible token transfers, 500,000 NFT transfers, and 850,000 smart contract calls. And now let's take a look at the crypto and HBAR markets. Bitcoin is up 4.5% the past day, but down about the same over the past week to $84,600. Crypto has generally been down this week, but there's no way to sugarcoat it. HBAR has underperformed. It's up 3.5% today, but down 20% this week to just over 19 cents. The underperformance has caused us to drop to 15 on the CoinMarketCap list. We're about a penny over an area of strong support, and until we break 26 cents and flip that to support, we're just kind of range bound. So looking forward to next week, we're going to have Zenny on, Tune FM, AUDD, and we're going to have the Hashgraph Association. Not to mention, I'm also going to have Rob back for Shark Bites. So if you have any questions for him, you can go ahead and drop those down in the comments. But I do have a question for you. As you've seen, I've taken the Shark Bites and I've